I have Julia Cook with me today. Everyone knows our favorite author, Julia Cook. Could you tell us, Julia, about yourself, your job title, how you got started, and what it is exactly that you do as an author?
Well, I am a former teacher and turned school counselor turned children's author. And never did I plan to do this. I was a counselor and I couldn't figure out how to get my kids to stop tattling. They were tattling so much the teachers wanted to pull out their hair. And so I wanted to do a tattling lesson. And I had a really good teacher in graduate school that told me if you want to get into a kid's head, read them a story. And if you read them a story that has tools in it, the tools will spill off into their head, and then they can use those tools to solve their problems from the inside out. So I looked for books on tattling and couldn't find one. So I wrote a story about a little kid who tattled so much he grew a tail. And what came out of that were some tattle rules that talked to kids about when not to tell. And the tattle rules worked for my kids at my school. And so a teacher came in and said, you should do something with this. It's really working. So I grabbed a book off the shelf, not one I hadn't written, but one I used, and I turned it to the first page, the publishing page, the page nobody reads. And there was a phone number. Picked up the phone and called the number, and a person said, send it in because we're always looking for people that write books. So I overnighted this on a Monday. And they called me 2 days later on Wednesday. They said, we want to publish your book. Do you have any more? I said, well, how much do I have to pay you? They said, ma'am, we're going to pay you. And I dropped the phone. And then I picked it back up and he goes, do you have any more? Well, when I was little, I used to interrupt all the time. Interrupted so much. My babysitter said, Julia, your mouth is a volcano. So I have that one. Sent that in. Now there's over 100 titles. They're in 9 languages. And I think there's about 2 million Julia Cook books sold. So it was never a career that I planned on doing. And if, job title, author, teacher, whatever, I think job title, if I could pick my job title, it would be difference maker. Positive.
I love that.
Positive difference maker.
I love that. Yes, and I think you wear that title quite well. Okay, so Julia, to become an author, what type of training did you have to have?
Well, I write books for teachers and I write books for counselors. So how can I talk to a counselor or a teacher and be effective if I haven't been a counselor or a teacher? And so I couldn't figure out what career I wanted when I graduated. I graduated from high school at 16. I had all my credits. I was planning on being a physician. And I thought, wow, I could get a kickstart on that. And I started in college and started down that science path. And after going to school for 7 years, my dad said, what are you going to be? Because I don't want to pay tuition anymore. And I said, well, I don't know. And he said, well, what do you love to do? Because you need to pick something that you love to do so you never go to work. You go to have fun every day. And I said, well, the only thing I really love to do is teach skiing because I taught skiing at Park City in Utah. And he says, well, then teach school. I said, teach school? And he's like, if you could teach skiing, you could teach anything. So I thought about that. And I thought, my favorite group of kids was middle schoolers. And so I decided to get my degree K through 8 and I had a lot of science. So K through 8 science teaching, math teaching. And that's how I launched that career. If you want to be an author, you don't ever want to write to get paid. Because if you write to get paid, you lose your creativity. So go and get a degree that pays your bills and write for fun. Everything you learn along the way for your career that pays your bills is going to help you become a better writer. Because writing it's a talent and it became a profession, but it wouldn't, if I didn't love what I do, it wouldn't work. It would be fake. And the writing spilled into speaking because all the books are based on research. And so teachers and counselors have all this stuff to teach you, and we don't know all the answers. But if I can weave some answers into the stories, then I learn a lot about what we're talking about by talking to the top people in the country. And then I can kind of talk to teachers and counselors And the thing I love more than anything is getting in front of kids and reading the books to kids and watching their faces. I mean, I'm dead dog tired out there on the road. Last year, I think I traveled like 306 days. But when I get in front of a group of kids and I see their expressions when I read the books, I know them in their head and it's making a positive difference. And that's just like fuel on steroids to make you feel like you want to keep going.
I love that. What were the classes that you took when you were in school that helped prepare you for the jobs that you've had?
I took a plethora of classes, math, a lot of English, and I was not a reader, and I was not into English, and I was not into writing. That was not my favorite thing. I love science and I love social studies, projects, but not that. I'm more of a creative, not a linear thinker. And so it doesn't matter what classes you end up taking. What matters is, do you do well in them? It's so important, and I found out the hard way in college that 85% of success in college is showing up, because you pay tuition and they don't care if you go or not. It's all on you. So just showing up and listening is 85% of the battle. And so in school, when we're in school, when you're in elementary school, when you're in middle school and high school, yeah, you can be there, but you need to show up. Your feet and your brain need to be in the same room. It doesn't necessarily matter what classes per se you take. I mean, if you're interested in medicine, take sciences. And if you're interested in art, take every art class you can take your hands on. Take your interest level classes. Just do well in what you do. Do everything you can to be the best you can be along the way, because you can't wait till ninth grade and then decide you're going to get A's if you get D's in eighth grade, because then you got a big old curve in front of you. Just do your best.
Julia, what would you say you enjoy most about your job?
The thing I enjoy most about the job is when kids see themselves in the stories, and I'm in a school, or I'm working with teachers or parents, and a parent comes up and says, wow, that was worth my time. That was an hour that I'll never regret coming. Or a teacher says, I just want to thank you for all that you're doing for kids. School counselors, they'll say, I can't believe it's really you. And that's really, I just think, well, I'm one of you. I'm not one bit better than any of you. I put my pants on the same way as you do. It's the people reaction to what you're doing, knowing that you're making a positive difference and making their lives easier, kids' lives easier, teachers' lives easier, counselors' lives easier, administrators' lives easier. That's my favorite part. I just want to make a difference and feel like the time was worth spending. I mean, we only get 24 hours in a day. So was an hour of Julia Cook worth it? Boy, I hope so.
I would say it's always worth it. So keep doing what you're doing. You're making a huge difference. What would you say a typical day is like for you?
So my day is not normal compared to most people's. When I'm leaving for a trip, I always leave the earliest flight out. So I leave my house at 3 a.m. and drive to the airport and fly to wherever and get a car and check into a hotel and get ready. And then the next morning I show up, and a typical day is showing up at a school about 7 o'clock and getting set for the presentations, and then doing morning presentations, and then a lunch with the teachers, and then afternoon presentations, oftentimes a staff development meeting right after school. And then maybe we go and get a quick bite to eat, and then come back and talk to parents at night. So it's a 7 a.m. and I'm pretty much 5 hours talking and, high level kind of performing. And then I come back at like 10 o'clock at night and go to bed, and then get up in the next morning and do the same thing. And oftentimes I'll do the second school and leave at 3 and then dash to the airport and fly home. And then when I get home, there'll be orders, because kids do orders, and everything that comes through my website, I'm very passionate about autographing, because I can't autograph Amazon sales or Barnes and Noble, but if it comes through my website, I can personalize every book. So my husband, he's awesome. He'll pull all the orders and have them sitting on the counter, and then I'll sign books. And it's not too non-typical. Typically I get home. Sometimes I have to stay up till 2 and 3 in the morning signing books, and then get back and regroup and rebuild and do a few things at home, and then I'm on the road again.
You've got a lot going on. Would you say that your job is mainly physical strain, mental strain, or both?
It's both. I got to lug 70-pound suitcases around full of books and carry this dog around. Kirby, she comes with me on the road, which helps a ton because then you don't feel like you're all by yourself. And Kirby has special jobs that she does. She's a service animal for Child Watch, and so she works with the kids as well. And so it's physically draining, but it's emotionally draining as well. And it's mentally draining too. So it's just draining. So that's the thing. What fills your cup is watching kids' eyes and seeing what they do. So
Right. Okay, Julia, so could an author live anywhere, or are there certain areas where an author should live?
an author can live anywhere, but an author can only be really, truly successful if they can go out and read their books. Nobody can read a book like the author can read their own book. And so if you think you can write a book and put it on the shelf and have Barnes and Noble see it, those books are not going to say, read me, baby. They have to get in the hands of people. That takes the author getting out and traveling and doing it. Being that I live in Nebraska, it's right in the middle of the country, so it's very convenient because it's either 1 or 2 flights to everywhere I go in the United States. But an author could typically live anywhere. But it's really tough to be an ivory tower author where you just think you're just going to read, and just because you wrote it, people will want to read it, unless you have like a celebrity status before you start writing. Lots of celebrities have written a lot of really good books, like Jamie Lee Curtis. She writes some really good stories, and everybody knows her, so then she doesn't have to go out and do author stuff. But a really good author that doesn't have a celebrity behind them needs to be out on the road showing their wares, showing what they do, and making that difference.
All right. So, what's the most satisfying aspect of your job?
Well, I think I've answered that a few times in this interview, but the most satisfying aspect of my job is when I look in the eyes of kids and I can see like a glimmer in their eyes, like their eyes are shiny and they're like, "Oh yeah," they have that aha look. That just fills my cup.
So, Julia, one of the main reasons we work is to make an income so we can support ourselves. Authors, where do they start out at? What's the top? Can you help us out on that?
Well, especially since now we have self-publishing, there's a lot of authors out there. I think I read that the majority of authors make around $18,000 to $20,000 a year. Um, uh, the more books you sell, the more money you make. So it's a sliding scale. I mean, you have authors that make millions of dollars a year, and you have authors that, I think the average is about 50,000, and that's high because everybody who writes something doesn't get it published. Everybody who gets it published doesn't get it in the hands of people. And why is it worth their time? It might be worth your time to read it, but it doesn't mean it's worth other people's time. That's the thing. If you're going to write something, it has to be worth people's time to read it. They have to get something out of it. And so the range is from $0 to millions. And basically is, first of all, you have to have a product that people want to read. Second of all, you've got to get it out there. And you can't expect publishers to work harder than you. Publishers house the book and supply the book to vendors. They don't publicize the book too much. I mean, they do within their realm, but that's on you. So anybody who thinks that they can just do this and it's easy is very wrong. And a lot of people come to me and they say, "Oh, I want to do this. I'm a counselor and I can't wait. And I have all these ideas." And man, they get into it and they realize that it's tit for tat. The more you give, the better you'll do. But if you don't have time to put behind this right now, really tough to get it off the ground. Very tough. And creating a brand, I think I kind of have a Julia Cook brand now, but it has 15 years has taken. So I'm real proud of that brand. But that's not something that is ever easy. Um,
It doesn't just happen overnight.
No,
No.
no. I mean, you have to believe in what you do, you have to love what you do, and it has to make a difference to other people to create a brand. I mean, every brand you have, look out there, whatever brand it is, Coke, Pepsi,
Yeah,
Nike, they all make a difference.
great. I love that. So, Julia, I'm curious because I think sometimes people think, oh, Julia sells a book for $10. She gets $10 of that book sale. How
No,
does that work?
when Amazon sells, see, you make a percentage of what the publisher sells it for. So if the publisher sells the books to Amazon, they Amazon comes in and says, we'll buy this many books and this is what we're going to pay. So if Amazon sells a Julia cookbook, I make 30 cents. And if Barnes and Noble sells a Julia cookbook, I make probably 55 cents. And if the publishers sell a Julia cookbook, I make $1 on that sale because I get, if I sell a Julia cookbook, I do have a better margin because they let me buy it a little cheaper than you buy it for. So I make, $3 maybe or something on a book if I sell it. But it's not like if I sell a book, I get $10. No, that doesn't happen because I didn't print the book. I don't house the book. I don't, I don't, and I'm not a self-published author, which, because if I was a self-published author, probably I couldn't sell anything I might sell on Amazon, but I couldn't sell anything at like Barnes and Noble because they don't sell self-published authors. So it's not, I mean, you think about it, 30 cents a book. Well, that 30 cents will add up.
Yeah,
So, and what did I do to earn that 30 cents? I wrote the book, right? So those are residual earnings after a while, but it's not like you make what the person pays for. So sometimes counselors will ask me, can I get a discount? And I can't give them I mean, if I give them too much of a discount, I end up paying for their books because I don't get a very good margin.
right,
So
right. That's good. I think that is a misconception of a lot of people. But like you said, we have to consider the publisher, we have to consider the illustrator, all the
right.
people who go into making that
They
book.
get a and they get a piece. And
Yeah,
the only thing I can offer that Amazon can't is I can personalize them. I can put your names in them and I can actually write them to you. And so that's why I spend, hours upon hours all night long, sometimes signing books for kids. Every time I do a school order or whatever, everything is personalized and Kirby puts her paws on it too. And, so that's a little difference I can give, but I totally understand if teachers need to save money, they want to buy it on Amazon, then I understand that. So I certainly am not mad at Amazon. I'm proud that Amazon sells my books. I'm like one of their top children's authors
yeah.
of all time. So I wouldn't be where I am without Amazon. So I love Amazon, but yeah.
So, Julie, I have another question for you. We've got students of all ages who are listening, hopefully, to our virtual career fair. How would you advise them to plan for their future?
First of all, you got to find out what you love, find out what you like, and then do everything you can to learn more about that thing to make sure you really do like it or love it. Because if you could pick a career that you love to do, you'll never go to work. One day in your life, you'll never go to work. And it's not about being happy, it's about the little joy along the way that you find. And so, and the one thing is, you have to figure out what you don't like to do in order to figure out what you like to do. So you can't just tunnel all your energy into one area. Just do the best you can be to be a well-rounded person, because you'll learn lessons along the way of, boy, I surely don't want to be an accountant, or I'm sure glad I didn't do, but how do I know I don't want to be an accountant? Because I can't balance my checkbook, or I have a problem, or, so my suggestion is that regardless of what you choose, do your very best to be the best you can be. And sometimes you do things you don't like so that you learn how much you don't like them, but you can't believe the lessons you learn along the way from those things. I mean, I had to take, organic chemistry, and I don't use that. I had to take calculus, and I don't use that. But it changed my brain and the way I think, and it made me, understand when someone else is having problems with organic chemistry and they're very frustrated and they have no hope. I sure can feel for them and I know what they're doing. So, be well-rounded and don't pick writing as your career to pay your bills. Pick something that you know will pay your bills. Find something you love doing and go from there. And if you want to be a video game designer, you got to get off of that because everybody wants to be a video game designer and we can't have too many video game designers. Why do you want to be a video game designer? Because it makes you feel good when you win. Well, find out something you can do without a screen that makes you feel good.
And read your book on video games.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I love it. Okay. Last thing, Julia, is there anything else that maybe I forgot to ask that you would like to share with our listeners?
when you look in the mirror, are you proud of what you see? Because if a person wants to have a good self-worth and a good self-esteem, they look in the mirror and they're proud of what they've done. I mean, I can tell a kid how wonderful they are all day long, and it might make them feel a little bit better, but their self-worth doesn't go up. So and what you are, I mean, I'm an author. That's not who I am. It's what I do. So your career is going to be what you do, but what matters is who you are. Can you look in the mirror and be proud of yourself for what you've done? And if you just do a good deed every day, one little good deed every day, like today, I went and bought toilet paper for my neighbor who can't go to the store. So I had to be there at 6 a.m. when they opened, and I got her some toilet paper and dropped it off. I toilet papered her lawn. Actually, I just set it on her porch. But then I drove away thinking, wow, I made a positive difference to somebody. That makes you feel good inside. Yeah. And the world could use all of you. So, sky's the limit. There's not, just keep working and trying and you'll be amazed. I mean, I grew up with blue collar parents who had nothing, worked their rear ends off forever and ever. But my dad always had this rule that if you're going to do something, you do your best and then find what you love. And he was forced into a career because his father had him buy his store. He wanted to do something else, but out of family obligation, he was like, had to do our shop, which is a cutlery grinding shop. So it wasn't his career choice, but he made the best of it and turned out to love it, every bit of it. But he was always like, for us, hey, you need to pick what you love to do. What do you love to do? I love to teach skiing. Well, there you go, to teach kids. And I still get to teach. I get to teach kids. I get to teach teachers. I get to teach parents. And I don't know all the answers, but I have Google. I can look it up.
Julie, I want to thank you for visiting with us today, sharing a little bit about your life. We got to take a look inside of Julia Cook, maybe the parts that we don't always see. And once again, we got to learn from you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.